Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. This is the Big Ask. Get Your Ass Together male panel, and we're kicking it off with two amazing kings. And so the first one, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is Detavio, COO of Revolt TV and Media. And we have the founder of Black CEO, which is Trevor Otts. Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello, Lucinda. How are
Hey,
you?
hey.
Listen, you say I'm too lit, right? I'm too lit.
You
I'm
got
too
the
No, I love the
crown. You got the
energy.
crown.
No, I was watching the whole time. I love the energy. Let's go.
Listen, I'm too lit. First of all, your backgrounds look real rich. Okay, that's number one. The backgrounds look rich. I'm gonna get my whole background life together. Please share. You share who you are. Detavio, you start off. Tell us just briefly who you are and just we'll get into it.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, first and foremost, let me just say it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I was watching you kick it off and just the energy you were bringing to the table. It's only 9 o'clock on the West Coast, but you definitely got me hyped and excited. So Detavio Samuels, as Lucinda said, I'm currently the COO and co-head at Revolt, meaning I oversee everything in terms of content, the expression of the brand, social, digital, creative, insights, marketing, all of that, and then have a co-head who's a partner who oversees kind of the finance and the legal aspects. Came here, long background in media, been doing that for about 10 years, about 10 years of experience in the creative agency side of the business. I'm happy to be here with my brother Trevor to see what we talk about today.
Awesome. Trevor, come on now, bro. We go way back. We go back since peanut butter and jelly. We go back since chocolate milk. Please tell those who don't know who you are.
I'm Trevor Otts. I'm the founder of Black CEO. And it's really interesting how Black CEO really got started because it really started with a big ask. And the big ask was, how could I be more impactful for my people? How could I help my people generate more revenue? And then how can I help my people move from really kind of moving out of that solo CEO mindset into really becoming the CEO that is literally bringing in people within our community so we can get to the point where we can hire our own. I remember growing up, when I would look at, when I would go to the Chinese food restaurant, right, in the hood, just keeping it real, and I would be mad because everybody that worked in there looked like them, and I was mad that they didn't hire us. But as I started to grow up in my mindset, I had to start asking myself, why aren't more people like us hiring people like us? And what was my part in that? And what was my part in that? What was I going to do? And so I love this big ass conference because I think we don't ask enough. I don't think we ask enough of ourselves. I don't think we ask enough of our community. I don't think we ask enough of our children. Matter of fact, I think that we have gotten so used to disappointment that we've literally adopted a fear of asking for what we actually want.
Come on.
And then when we finally ask for what we want, right, we have such a disbelief that we go from an ask to a beg. Woo! See, an ask is an expectation, but a beg is a hope. And so when we talk about the big ask, the name of this conference is not the big beg. The name of this conference is the big ask. And so everybody that's watching right now, you got to up-level your mindset to come into this with the big ask or the big expectation of what you want out of your life, your business, your relationship, your community, out of this world, out of this crazy ass president. I'm talking about whatever you want. You got to come with an expectation that I came to receive that which I asked for. So I'm Trevor Otts, y'all. Let's get started.
Okay, we're gonna pass the offering plate. We're gonna pass the offering plate on that note. So Detavio, talk to me first. When it comes to asking, what is one mistake that you have seen others make? And I think Trevor kind of even went into it a little bit. But what's the mistake that you've seen them make, especially in your industry? Because I know when they hear Revolt, they like, well, let me just throw everything at him. I need him to listen to my audio CDs. I could dance. I could write. And so what's one mistake, even if it's one that you've made when it came to asking or seeing others make?
Yeah, I actually think, the biggest mistake I see people make is what I heard Trevor just kind of speak on, which is we don't ask for enough. I
Mm.
think all too often we look at white people, and I'm speaking from a people of color perspective, we look at white people and we put on them like the sense of entitlement. They feel like everything is there, so they don't mind asking for the big ask, right? When you look at people of color and people who have historically been marginalized, we tend to either not see value in ourselves, so we don't ask for enough because we don't value ourselves enough. And so we're not willing to put ourselves in a position where we can actually get as much as we want. I just went through this experience with my brother-in-law who negotiated his first job offer. He, not recognizing his value, just threw out any number,
Mm.
the lowest number he could think of, right? And they accepted it immediately. Right. So
Mhm.
I've been working with him over the last few years. Now he's in conversations with a new job, and now he's throwing out the biggest number. Right. And what he's seeing is nobody is balking at the big number. And he's realizing that the difference between what he's making and what he could have made, we're talking about tens, 20, 30, $40,000, all came down to the fact that he wasn't willing enough to ask for the big number. He didn't see enough value in himself, or he was so afraid that when he asked for the big number, they would say no. But he also just watched me go through a similar negotiation process where I threw out the biggest number and they said no, but they came back with another number. So now he's realizing that I don't have to be afraid. I can throw out what I think I'm worth. I can throw out where I think I put value in this company, and they will come back if they don't love my number, but they love me. They'll come back with something real. And so I think the biggest problem we have is we're just too afraid to ask for what we deserve.
This is interesting. And before I go to you, Trevor, what I did even within this book and within the conference and the whole movement, I realized after talking and interviewing hundreds of men, when men come to the table or they go to the boardroom or the meeting, they're ready to, if they hear the no and the rejection, it's not something that they're fearful of from my experience and observation of talking to them, but they're looking at, if I hear a no, what do I have to do or what do I have to say to get a yes? Where women, and even some specifically women of color, before we even get to the door, we've already counted ourselves out at least 20 times. And when we hear the no, or before we even get there, we're like, I'll just accept what is given, versus turning that no into I'm coming back stronger or doing a different presentation. So, that's just something I just wanted to add. And Trevor,
yeah,
go ahead.
Can I jump? I think it's the failure to recognize that it's a negotiation, right? So when you're doing a negotiation, most people think, okay, I want to land at 500. That means I need to start at 1,000 because we are going to have a back and forth where we figure out where the win-win is. Versus I want to land at 500, so I'm going to start at 500. I want to land at 500, but I'm going to start at 250 because I don't want people lose the fact that it's called a negotiation for a reason.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. And I like what y'all said. Matter of fact, if I might just jump in on this one, right? It's first, you got to learn how to love the no, right? Literally, you got to learn how to love the no. And most people have not learned how to love a no. And I want everybody to write this down, right? If you're in the chat room, whatever you're doing, literally write this down, because the hand is a digital recorder for the mind. Anything you write down, right, or if you write it or whether you type it, your mind can see what you wrote, even if your eyes are closed, because the mind can see without the eyes, but the eyes can't see without the mind, right? And see, what happens is you have to learn how to see with your mind. So I want you to write this down, right? Yes is where we're headed, but no is how we get there.
Come on, they better write.
Yes is where we're headed, but no is how we get there. And I'm gonna tell you how I learned this. When I first started out sort of in this digital marketing and automation field, and I was trying to bring in clients, I would get a no, and that would be me for the day. I would get up the next day, get pumped up, listen to some Les Brown, right? Listen to some Jay-Z, right? Get a no, and I'm wiped out, done for the day, right? Whole feelings, all emotions out of whack, everything. But then I started looking at, I would get up and then I would get no, and then on the fifth one I would get a yes. And then I started noticing a pattern that for every 4 no's, I got 1 yes. And the first thing I learned was what was my no to yes ratio. And so what I started realizing, I said, oh, wait a minute. I noticed that on average, I'm getting 4 no's for every 1 yes. So if I needed to get basically 5 yeses in the day, I knew I was going to have to go through 20 no's, because yes is where we're headed, but no is how we get there. Yes is where we're headed, but no is how we get there. And so literally, I started creating a journal, because in every no, I started positioning and started looking at and evaluating why I got the no. Was it price? Was it value? Right? Was it me? And I started creating a little journal. And most people don't keep a journal of their no's. Right? And so I want you to write this down, because most people are afraid to ask for the daggone money. That we come in, we come with that kind of built in there. And I want you to write this down, is that price only matters in the absence of value. Your job is not to be the salesperson. Your job is to build the value. That's your job. It's all about positioning. And you know what's really interesting about sales is a lot of people think that sales is about selling, and it's actually not. Sales is related to really what your client do, is their action. Your job is to position. And so when you watch like Apple, check this out, right? Detavio, you probably think this is interesting, right? When you watch an Apple commercial and they show you like the AirPods or the iPhone or something like that, you don't never ever see them say at competing retailer stores near you. They never say anything like that, right? They show you the iPhone. They don't tell you where to get it. They don't tell you how. They don't tell you nothing. They're like, if you want it, you'll find it. But when you see like another ad, and they'll say at competing retailer stores near you, and it's sort of like they're trying to almost like beg you to go get it, because Apple is not selling, Apple is positioning. And so what happens is a lot of times we're really not positioning. Like when you watch American Idol, you see a big cup of Coca-Cola sitting there. They ain't asking you to buy Coca-Cola. They're positioning, and basically they're saying, look, if you want Coke, you see what these other celebrities drinking, you know where to go find it at. So I saw Lucinda come on with her big ass cup. You got to show it up, right? See, y'all can get the big ass cup, right? And if you really want it, you will find it, because she positioned it, right? And so work on your positioning. It's sort of like, going to the club. You know what I mean? You try to get the right position when, you post up, get your little look on, right? And you in the right position, and you can see her, and she can see you, and you can see her, and she can see you. You got a little wing. That's position. So really, when it comes to the marketplace, learn to love the no, learn how to position, and learn how to pitch value, not the product, because price only matters in the absence of value. Back over to you, Lucinda.
Learn to love the no, Trevor and then put the real price and value on it. We take that from Detavio. I'm showing up. I'm adding another zero just because you Detavio. So y'all better think just because of Detavio, it's another zero, and I'm not even and I'm positioning it right. So this is good stuff. Next question is, now more than ever, right? Especially in these times. And I must say that there has been so much growth I've seen in my business, in my personal life, in this particular pandemic, because it allowed me to look at areas that I was just doing the most at and receiving the least. And one thing I noticed is that sometimes we will serve the biggest plate to those who bring nothing to the table. And it's time for us, right? We'll serve those who bring nothing to the table the biggest plate. And so I know that you guys, you want the big piece of chicken if y'all eat meat. I don't, but I'm just saying, they want the big piece of chicken. I get it. But is the time for business, when we think about it, for innovation, when we think of innovation, what are your thoughts on the best ways to get started with being innovative as a business owner and even as a brand? So Detavio, talk to us, like, what are you looking at? What stands out?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts. My first thought about where and ways to find kind of a path to innovation. One is Still Shamelessly. One of the best books I've read, just kind of growing up in my career, was this wonderful book called Steal Like an Artist. And the core idea was that the best makers, the best creators are just stealing, right? That what makes something unique is not that the idea is the first time it's ever been seen on earth, but it's the combination of I stole from this one, I stole from this one, I stole from this one. And when you put those things inside of a Lucinda cross, the natural output is different. And so I think the first thing is there's lots of things where you can look across categories to see innovative ideas. Like if you take the notion of like the share economy. We started with Netflix. We were sharing DVDs. Now we share cars, we share clothes, we share, right? That same idea can be applied to a variety of categories at work. And so the first one I would say is just look across the world to see what trends, what ideas, what innovative thoughts do you see happening? Can you apply them to your business and to your category? And does that make or create something new? The second one, which is a small one, is that people always think innovation means something big, like some brilliant big idea, like the next iPad or iPhone. So many innovations are actually really small ideas, right? But they're innovative and they create meaningful impact. And so I think don't get caught up with the idea that innovation has to mean big. Innovation can often mean something that's very, 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 very small. And then the last one that I have is just this idea of like designing for specific groups. So I was having a conversation with some friends the other day. They're twins, they do physical therapy, and they're doing YouTube videos. My first question was, who's your audience? Because if you're designing for men, it's going to look very different than if you're designing for physical therapists. It's going to look very different if you're designing for women who are pregnant. And so a lot of times just being able to zero in on an underserved audience, we call them like a super niche. So it's something that sounds small, but it's really not small. So at Revolt, we focus on the hip hop audience. It sounds like a niche group, but if you know anything, you know that hip hop is the biggest cultural driving force in the world, right? So we're looking for those niches that are super niches that are being underserved, and we can design specifically towards their attitudes and behaviors. Those are three paths that I think people can look into for innovation.
I think I'm gonna make a rap called, I think I'm gonna come out with a rap song called Big Askers. Good information. I love it. Steal Like an Artist. That's a book, correct?
Yeah.
We want to bless
That's a great book.
We want to bless a few people who are actually tagging at Detavio, tagging at Trevor Otts to get a copy of the book Steal Like an Artist. And I love that. Trevor, I know I'm marketing mastermind over there. Talk to us.
So, okay, when we talk about innovation, right, I think you have, two key areas. By the way, Detavio, I'm getting that book. I was fighting trying to.
Man, it's such a freeing idea when you realize you don't have to come up with every big idea yourself. I
Feel like an artist,
It's such a freeing idea.
I think when you're dealing with brands, because everybody is a brand, right? And not only is everybody a brand, then the products and services that you bring to the market is a brand. And a brand exists because somebody creates this movement around it. And so innovation creates movement. That's what you got to understand, that innovation in and of itself can create a movement. And here's the thing that I think we should know. See, every movement must have a moment. And those moments must be disruptive. And it's the disruptive moments within your movement that give it momentum. Let me say that again, and then let's just break it down. Every movement must have a moment. Those moments must be disruptive, and it's the disruptive moments within your movement that give it momentum. So every movement, right, must have this moment. That's a dispensation of time of heightened relevancy. Every year the iPhone launches a new version, and for that particular period in time, the iPhone is more relevant during that particular launch period than it is during other periods. So we want to have a launch cycle. And then the second thing is, if every movement must have a moment, those moments must be disruptive. And here is where the innovation comes. Powerful people ask powerful questions. We're in the big ask. So powerful people ask powerful questions because questions steer focus. And in your life and in your business, you only get what you focus on. The question is, what is disruption? Disruption is challenging the norm. And this is a big thing for entrepreneurs because you have to keep in mind that all throughout elementary school, you've been standing in line by tallest to shortest to tallest, by first name to last name, right? We've been doing things in order, and sometimes we are breaking. We are so used to being fit inpreneurs that it's time to be fit outpreneurs. If you want to do something that's already been done before, go hire yourself an expert. But if you want to do something that's never been done before, you got to hire yourself a visionary, somebody who sees the world differently than other people do, right? And so many of us are caught up on the title CEO, never realizing that what the things that drive the world are today's CVOs, the chief visionary officers, right? See, when you think about Steve Jobs, when you think about Oprah, when you think about the guy who owns Tesla, right? These people are visionaries, right? Because every movement must have a moment. Those moments must be disruptive, and it's disruptive moments within your movement that give it momentum. So what is disruption? It is challenging the norm. It's challenging what your customers normally think, challenging what your customers normally say, challenging what your customers normally do. What is disruption? We love challenging other people, but we got to do what Michael Jackson said. Talk to the man in the mirror, challenging what you normally think, challenging what you normally say, challenging what you normally do. And then once you do that, you got to challenge what the industry normally thinks. You got to challenge what the industry normally says. You got to challenge what the industry normally does. Every movement must have a moment. Those moments must be disruptive. And it's the disruptive moments within your movement that give it momentum. Me, Detavio, Lucinda, ain't none of us sitting here today if it wasn't for a black woman in Alabama who decided not to give up her seat. Her name was what? Rosa Parks, right? There was a movement called the Civil Rights Movement, but that movement needed some momentum. And so what she decided to do was not to give up her seat. It was so disruptive. It was so disruptive that it became the catalyst for the March on Washington. Because every movement must have a moment. Of moments must be disruptive. You look at Steve Jobs. When phones were created, they had small screens and big buttons. He came back and he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a phone with a big screen and one button. And then when everybody started doing that, he came back and said, now I'm going to create a phone with a big screen and no button, right? Because he was disrupting the market. And so a lot of times, by the way, the book that you want to read is Disrupt You. Disrupt You. Because what you have to do to be innovative, every entrepreneur, every speaker, every coach, every leader, what you have to do is you have to find your POD. Your POD is called your point of disruption. And in order to find your point of disruption, you have to acknowledge what was, what is, and then what is to come. That's your innovation.
Go ahead, Detavio. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I was just gonna say I loved everything that he was saying. The only thing that I want to add to it is everything he just said takes boldness, takes courage. Like that walk is not a walk for everybody, right? That walk where you are challenging the norms, where you are challenging what exists. Like Steve Jobs was very familiar and very well known for saying, like, I don't care about research. The consumer doesn't even know what they want, right? Like to be that type of a person with that type of vision takes so much courage and boldness. And so it's also just a self-check to say, am I in a season of boldness and courage? Because if you're not in a moment of boldness, you can't walk that walk that Trevor just gave you. Like you need to go find somewhere to like build up, get your strength up, and but that walk he just do some push-ups. That walk he just laid out is not for the weak at heart. You know what I mean? And so I just want to point that piece out too.
So this goes into our question, which is great, and both of you can go elaborate more if you want, but sharing a tip that helped you get a seat at the table. Take us behind the scenes. What is something that you use to build? Y'all heard about Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. That's a whole nother conversation. We got to pray. We got to pray for one of the parties.
I'm praying for Roy that he make it.
Yeah, I'm praying for Roy because Mike is in there looking like he just started. Okay, so tell us your Mike Tyson move, rather, that helped you get a seat at the table.
Yeah. So what I always say, so I tell this story. It's what I've called the Superman strategy. And so a lot of people don't look at Superman as a holistic being. So Superman was born on a planet called Krypton, right? Krypton was a planet of superhuman beings. So while Superman was different, he wasn't different, right? It was just a planet of all amazing folks, right? It's not until he comes to Earth and he's dealing with us 8 billion average people that Superman is not man. He is truly Superman, right? And so the idea that I talk about that's been really helpful for me is to train on Krypton, to train with the superhuman beings, to train with the best, to play with the best. I went to school at Duke and Stanford. I want to run with Trevor. I want to run with Lucinda, right? I want to run with the best. But then when it comes to where I play, where I make my money, I'm going to Earth. I'm going to that place where I am the superhuman being, where there's nobody who does what I do, where the stuff that I do, the gifts that God has put inside of me, the talents that I bring to the table truly look superhuman. I'm flying across the earth, shooting things out of my eyes, right? That positioning, and it goes back to what Trevor was talking about, which is a true point of difference, right? I'm not trying to be in a planet of superhuman, amazing beings and be one of. I'm trying to have a clear point of difference from everybody else who is even remotely close to me. And so that type of separation, and I've done it very strategically and purposefully in my career, has been critical to me being able to get the opportunities that I've been able to get and then deliver on.
Love it. Yeah. Trevor, quickly tell us too.
Yeah. I would say I would use ASK, ask, right? and I would turn it into an acronym and say always serving knowledgeably, right? Always serving knowledgeably, because service was really my real breakthrough. Really swallowing my ego and learning to serve. And here's what happens. And I want everybody to write this down. You labor so you can learn, but you learn so you can live. Here's the key. Don't try to live off of your labor. The goal is to live off of what you learn. Because if you live off of your labor, the value of your labor will eventually expire, and they're going to want you to retire because the value of your labor is no longer relevant to them. And so we go to work and they want us to retire at 65. But look at the Supreme Court. They're on there till they're like 80, 90 till they drop dead because they learning to live. They living off what they learn. So what's up with you? So when you do labor and you do serve, you labor with the intention of learning. And then you learn with the intention of living off of what you learn, right? Or ASK, always serving knowledgeably. Know why you serving. That's what I'm saying.
This is fire. All right. I just really want to thank both of you for just setting the tone for the rest of this afternoon. Matter of fact, for the rest of this year. We talked about books that you need to pick up, Disrupt You, Steal Like an Artist. You have some powerful messages in terms of using and activating your superpowers, right? And your point of differentiation, but then also the importance of labor, learn to live. And I just love this because I have a saying that says you can either add years to your life or life to your years. And I'm here to add life to my years. We don't know the number or the day. And so I just thank you so much for such rich content and information. Thank you for being here this afternoon, Detavio this morning. And God bless you. Listen, I'm stealing like an artist. I'm taking all of Beyonce's Black Ink movement. You're going to see me on a tree and give me about two more weeks. You're going to see me on a tree with some Photoshop. But I'm celebrating the Black King. I'm stealing like an artist. We're going to take it from Queen B. So God bless, and thank you so much, Kings, for being a part of this
Such
panel.
an honor, Queen. Thank you.
And thank you for having us on there, man. I appreciate you. Hey, Tyler, I gotta connect with you, man. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, we are. It's already gonna happen. All good. Thank you, Lucinda.
All right, thank you so much. This was fire. And you guys can exchange information as well in the chat room because this. Yeah, this was good. Oh, I'm lit. We have really kicked off the male panel, Black King. Just get ready for more. Do not move. Do not make sure your Wi-Fi is set up. Your charges is right where it needs to be. You have your water. I'm excited. So let's get ready for what's next.